The doorbell rang at exactly 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the time because I just finished grading a stack of sophomore literature essays, each one a fresh reminder that teenage poetry is often just rhyming words for confused. I still had my red pen in hand, ink warm from slicing through mediocrity, when I opened the door. He was tall, lanky, a kid who looked vaguely like someone I used to be. Dark hair, tired eyes, nervous energy radiating off him like an unplugged phone still trying to charge. "Can I help you?" I asked, and already I had the sense that something irreversible was about to happen. "Mr. Keller?" the boy asked, voice cracking like he was rehearsing for puberty all over again. "That's me." He stuck out a hand like we were at a job interview. "My name is Eli Brenner. I'm your son." My grip froze on the doorknob. The brass clicked against my wedding ring, a sound that had always meant home. Until now. For context, I've been married to Monica for 20 years. 2 decades of joint checking accounts, matching towels, and arguments over thermostat settings. We built a life in the safe, suburban way, slow, structured, reliable. But in that moment, standing face to face with a grown man calling me dad, all of it cracked like a windshield under stress. That's not possible," I said, even though my brain was already scrambling through memory reels like a detective with a grudge. And then it hit. Jessica Brenner. Sophomore year of college. 3-week fling. Vanished when summer came, like a cheap internship. Eli's voice dropped. "My mother is Jessica Brenner. University of Michigan. I was born January 8th, 2008. Do the math." My silence did it for me. Behind me, I heard Monica's voice float in from the kitchen. "Adam? Who's at the door?" I didn't turn. Just said, "This is Eli. He says he's my son." Then Monica appeared, towel in hand, wedding band still shining. She looked from me to the boy, and for a second, I saw something in her eyes that was worse than fury. It was calculation. Inventory. Like she was trying to measure how much of this she could survive. "You're what?" she asked sharply. "It's not proven," I said. "He has a photo. And a birth certificate that says father unknown." Eli pulled out the photo. Me, 20 years ago, thinner, cockier, with my arm around Jessica. Summer skin, stupid grin. And suddenly it didn't matter what I believed. It mattered what Monica saw. "How dare you," she said, not to Eli, but to me. "I didn't know." "You didn't know? There's an adult standing in our doorway calling you dad." I turned to Eli. "Where's your mother now?" He hesitated. "She passed. Cancer. Last year. Her last wish was that I find you." Monica snapped. "Inside. Now." Eli backed away, hands raised. "I didn't mean to cause a scene." "No," I said gently. "Stay. Please. Are you staying nearby?" "Holiday Inn Express on Maple. Room 214. I nodded. "I'll call you tomorrow." When the door shut behind him, the real storm began. Monica's face was fire. "A son? A grown son? While we've been building a life, you had another one on layaway." "I didn't know." "Monica, please." "Pack a bag," she said, like a judge reading out a sentence. "I want you out of this house in 30 minutes. I didn't scream. Didn't beg. I just packed. The same suitcase we used for weekend trips to her sister's lake house, now stuffed with the echo of endings. I slept that night at the Holiday Inn, 2 floors below Eli. Didn't knock on his door. Didn't cry. Just sat in the beige silence of corporate linens, reading the text Monica sent me. "Please don't come back." And that, my friend, was the beginning. The real betrayal hadn't happened yet. But when it did, it wouldn't be mine. I didn't sleep much that night at the Holiday Inn. The room had that vaguely comforting smell of industrial detergent and neutral regret. 2 queen beds, 1 lamp, 1 sad little Keurig. I took the bed by the window, as if a good view of the parking lot would grant me perspective. At 3 a.m., I finally texted Eli. "We'll talk tomorrow. Thank you for finding me." "I'm sorry about your mom." He replied with just, "Thanks. I'm glad I found you too." Simple. Direct. Uncomplicated, unlike literally everything else in my life at the moment. The next morning, I showered in silence, shaved like it mattered, and put on my least wrinkled shirt from the suitcase I'd packed during my marital exile. I stared at myself in the mirror and thought, this is the face of a man who got surprise fatherhood and divorce threats in the same evening. Congratulations. Breakfast at the motel was powdered eggs and humility. I met Eli in the lobby. He looked just as nervous as I felt. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I said back. Father-son bonding level, 0. But we were trying. We took a walk down Maple Street, 2 strangers pretending they might share DNA. He told me about his childhood. Michigan winters, losing his mom, community college, a job at a mechanic shop. He asked me about literature, about teaching, about what Jessica had seen in me back then. She said you were quiet, safe, different from her usual type. I laughed. She wasn't wrong. Then he said something I'll never forget. She told me once she thought you were the one, but she didn't want to ruin your life. Said you were already leaving town, already on track. So she let it go. That hit harder than I expected. Eli was sharp, observant. He looked at me sometimes like he was trying to figure out which parts of himself came from me. I looked back, wondering if the universe had just waited 18 years to remind me I'm not as in control of my story as I thought. When we parted, I told him I'd be in touch. He said he'd like that. And then I drove home. Not inside. Just nearby. My house was still there. Same mailbox, same overwatered rose bushes Monica loved, but it felt like visiting the scene of a crime I didn't commit. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I unlocked the garage code and went in. Not to talk. To check. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I opened her laptop. Yes, I know privacy. Trust. Boundaries. But that trust had been shredded with surgical precision the night before. And let me tell you, sometimes the truth doesn't scream. Sometimes it just sits there. Like the message thread with someone named Caleb. Monica had marked it, work stuff. But unless her job involved hotel receipts, heart emojis, and a surprisingly long debate about favorite wine pairings, this wasn't exactly a quarterly performance review. One message read, "You make me feel 27 again. And dangerous." My wife, the same woman who had once made a spreadsheet about mulch, felt dangerous with someone who was not me. Fantastic. There was a calendar entry labeled Wellness Weekend, cabin rental for 2 weeks ago. I had spent that weekend cleaning the gutters. She said she was doing yoga and soul searching. Apparently, the soul she was searching for belonged to a guy named Caleb who uses way too many winking emojis. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the laptop. I just closed it, slowly, like it might bite me. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't been kicked out because of a surprise son. I'd been kicked out because it gave her cover. A narrative. A reason. A way out. I was no longer the boring, dependable husband she didn't know how to leave. Now I was the guy with a secret child, and that made her the victim. The innocent wife blindsided by her husband's past. It was genius in a cruel way. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd framed me. That was the first moment I felt it. Not sadness. Not heartbreak. Strategy. This wasn't going to be a breakup. It was going to be a chess match. They say grief comes in stages. Whoever said that never had to calculate which of your coffee mugs your wife kept when she planned your quiet execution. I came back to the house again that evening. Not to argue. Not even to confront. Just to take inventory. I knew Monica would be at her sister's. She made it very clear in the voicemail she left after I didn't respond to her last text. Staying at Claire's. I need space. Please don't make this harder than it is. Translation. Don't make it harder for me to finish rewriting history as the betrayed wife with a cheating husband and a therapist named Caleb on speed dial. I walked through the house like a stranger in my own museum. Everything was familiar, but off. The framed wedding photo in the hallway? Crooked. The bathroom towels? Only hers. The blanket we used to argue over on movie nights? Folded on her side of the bed. She'd done what I didn't have the nerve to do. She had started erasing me. Not loudly. Not all at once. But with the quiet precision of someone who had already left long before she said it out loud. In the kitchen, I found a single glass with red wine residue on the counter. That didn't hurt. What had hurt was the second glass in the sink. Still wet. That, and the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. You know what they never talk about in those How to Survive a Breakup articles? How your body knows before your brain admits it. I could feel the absence. In the spacing of hangers. In the cold side of the bed. In the way the hallway echoed differently. So I started collecting. No drama. No shouting. Just retrieval. My books. The ones she said looked too depressing on the living room shelf. My cufflinks. Buried in the back of the drawer like they were contagious. The backup key to my old Honda. Hidden in the ceramic frog on the porch. And the letter I wrote her on our 10th anniversary, still in the same envelope, unopened. She kept it like a prop. Not a memory. I packed it all into 2 duffel bags. Nothing extravagant. Just what was mine. But before I left, I took one last walk through the office, our shared space, though I hadn't been allowed to put anything on the walls in 5 years. There, in her desk drawer, was a small leather-bound notebook. I opened it without hesitation. Inside, journaling prompts. I kid you not. She'd actually answered a prompt that said, "What is something you've done that you know you'll never admit out loud?" And written underneath, in her handwriting, "I met someone who made me realize I've been living a placeholder life. And I didn't stop it. I just let it happen. That's when I stopped packing. Because that sentence right there, that wasn't just a confession. That was motive. The problem with smart people is they always think they're the only smart one in the room. Monica was sharp, I'll give her that. Sharp enough to find a neat excuse to push me out, sharp enough to turn my unexpected son into a public scandal, and sharp enough to begin erasing me before I even noticed the chalk outline forming around my life. But she wasn't clever. Because clever people cover their tracks. Monica? She got cocky. After I found her little confession in a notebook, the one where she admitted to replacing me emotionally before I ever had a chance to compete, I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat in that quiet house, her lemon-scented betrayal clinging to the walls, and made a list. A real one. Pen and paper. Old school. Like a grocery run. But instead of apples and toothpaste, it went something like Caleb's full name. Cabin reservation receipt. Second wine glass. The placeholder confession. My name on the mortgage. Her name on my pension. Eli. Son or alibi. That last one haunted me more than I expected. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure if Eli showing up when he did was divine timing or carefully coordinated chaos. It made sense. Bring the kid in, let the drama unfold, then get to play the role of wounded wife while shifting me to the curb. But no, Eli wasn't part of the game. I'd looked him in the eyes. That kid didn't have enough venom to play chess with someone like Monica. His mother, Jessica, maybe she always did know how to walk away clean, but not him. Still, I'd keep him off the board. For now. The next morning, I called my friend Owen. Now, to understand Owen, you have to understand this. He's a divorce lawyer with the personality of a poker game and the patience of a glacier. We've been friends since undergrad, back when we both believed our lives would be full of passion and wine and not, say, joint custody calendars and split checking accounts. Monica kicked me out. I told him over coffee. He didn't even blink. What did you do? Apparently? Exist. He nodded. Checks out. Then I laid it out for him. The sun. The fight. The weekend back. The silence. The Caleb of it all. He stirred his coffee exactly 3 times before answering. You want revenge or survival? Is that a menu? I need to know how much fire you're looking to start. I looked him straight in the eye and said it without blinking. I don't want revenge. Pause. I want her to know I saw everything. And I still walked away on my terms. He nodded like a priest taking confession. Good. That's the right kind of cruelty. We set the wheels in motion that week. The house? I stopped pretending it was mine. She wanted the space, the silence, the life without me? Fine. She could have all of it, plus the property taxes and the roof that needed replacing. I let her win the house. But I made sure the lawyer positioned the terms so she'd choke on the victory. The pension? Negotiable, but only if she withdrew her name from the joint investment accounts and signed over her share of the cabin in Traverse City, the one she forgot I knew about. Let her keep her little weekend getaway. I'd already updated the tax records to show her solo ownership, which meant her full liability. And those Airbnb bookings she was running on the side without claiming income? Let's just say the IRS was about to become very interested in Ms. Monica Keller, independent host and part-time victim. I didn't go loud. I didn't post screenshots. I didn't do the whole drag her online and torch the earth thing. No, that's too easy. Too temporary. What I did was quieter. Colder. I wrote her a letter. A single page. No insults. No accusations. Just this. You didn't break me. You broke the version of me who trusted you implicitly. And honestly, that guy needed to go anyway. Congratulations on the new beginning. You'll find it's a lot lonelier when the person you betrayed refuses to stay around and make it easy for you to feel powerful. I folded it neatly and mailed it to her new P.O. box. Because yes, she'd already changed her mailing address. Like she was auditioning for a life where I never existed. That's the part that gets you. It's not the cheating. It's not the lies. It's that they prepare to live without you before they even give you the chance to notice. A week later, I got a message from her. Just 3 words. We need to talk. I didn't reply. 3 days after that, another. Are you really going to be like this? Like this meant not playing the loyal ghost haunting her new relationship. And then, the voicemail. I know you've been talking to Owen. I know you're mad. But you're throwing away everything. For what? Because I made a mistake. That word. Mistake. Like she tripped and fell into Caleb's bed and accidentally formed a backup plan while I was grading essays and doing the taxes. That night, I sat on the motel balcony, sipping gas station whiskey and watching the neon lights of the holiday and flicker like they were trying to spell out a message. And I thought, this is what it means to rebuild from the ashes. Not screaming, not begging, not unraveling. Just observing, plotting, withholding the closure they think they're owed. Caleb looked like the kind of man who moisturized his forearms and referred to his car as she. I met him for the first and only time at a coffee shop downtown, by accident, technically. At least, that's how he'll remember it. I'd done my homework. His gym was 2 blocks over. He had a predictable routine. Mid-morning protein smoothie, black coffee after weights, salmon salad on Thursdays. A man of structure and vanity. Dangerous combo. He walked in wearing joggers like a costume. Probably drove there. Probably hadn't jogged since Monica taught him how to pronounce quinoa. I was already seated, laptop open, coffee half full, posture calm. The trick wasn't to confront him. The trick was to let him recognize me and not know what I knew. He passed my table. Paused. Backtracked. Hey, you're Adam, right? I looked up slowly. No fake smile. No handshake. Just a level, unreadable, I am. He stuck out his hand anyway, because of course he did. I'm Caleb. I let that hang in the air like a badly timed punchline. Then, casually, Monica's wellness coach. He blinked, smile tightening. She mentioned me? She mentioned a lot of things. I gestured to the empty seat across from me. You've got a few minutes? He hesitated, then sat. That ego had muscle memory. I'm guessing she didn't tell you we're still technically married, I said. No, she did. Said you two were taking time apart. I said. Did she also mention the part where I pay the mortgage? He didn't answer. Just shifted in his seat like he'd sat on a truth he wasn't ready for. Don't worry, I added. I'm not here to throw coffee in your face or tell you what kind of man you are. I already know. His jaw flexed. Still no words. I just wanted to meet the guy who helped my wife discover her dangerous side. Now that got him. A flash in the eyes. A twitch in the cheek. I leaned in just slightly. She ever tell you what she used to call me? He shook his head, unsure whether this was a trap. She used to say I was safe, that I made her feel like nothing could touch her. Then I smiled for real, for the first time in weeks. And now, nothing's protecting her anymore. I stood, left a 5 on the table, and walked out without another word. That was the thing Monica never understood. I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't trying to win anything. I'd already won the moment I stopped playing her game. The divorce mediation came next. Clean, civil, scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. Because apparently that's the appropriate time to officially sever a life built on 20 years of shared routines and matching towels. She walked in wearing a white blouse like she was auditioning for Grace. Polished, neutral, emotionally curated. I wore the same shirt she once called too casual for parent-teacher night. It felt appropriate. Her lawyer was some boutique shark in a turtleneck. Mine was Owen, sipping his thermos like this was lunch. I want the house, Monica said. You can have it, I said. Her eyes flicked up, surprised. I want the Honda, she added. Take it, I said. Now she was cautious. And I'm requesting half of your pension. Owen slid a paper across the table. That's negotiable. Provided she forfeits the Traverse City property, the joint stocks, and signs a release acknowledging the date of separation as the day she asked him to leave. Monica's jaw set. That's not how this happened. Unfortunately, Owen said, we have evidence to support that it is. And then he produced it. The receipts. The calendar. The notebook page, lightly photocopied. Just enough to draw blood, not enough to make her bleed out. I didn't expect this to be hostile, she said, looking at me for the first time. This isn't hostility, I said. This is accuracy. She blinked, caught between embarrassment and confusion, like she couldn't decide whether to be ashamed or offended. Why are you being like this? She finally asked. I looked at her like I didn't even recognize her anymore. You used me as a smokescreen, Monica. You didn't fall into Caleb's arms. You built a runway. She didn't deny it. Not out loud. Her lawyer touched her arm, whispered something that sounded like damage control, and the session ended. We signed papers 2 weeks later. She wore the same blouse. I wore indifference. That night, I met Eli for dinner. He wanted pizza. I wanted answers. You sure you came looking for me because of your mom? I asked gently, over pepperoni. He nodded. She said, you were the only one she ever trusted. I sat back. Let that settle. Because honestly, I believed it. You're not just some wild card in this story, Eli, I told him. You're the only honest part of it. He smiled, sheepish. Still feel like I dropped a bomb. I shook my head. Nah. Monica had already lit the fuse. You just walked in and flipped on the lights. Weeks passed. Monica moved into Caleb's apartment, the one with exposed brick and a live-in sense of self-importance. She never told me, but I knew. I didn't need cameras or spies. People like her, they leave digital fingerprints everywhere. I didn't retaliate, didn't post, didn't broadcast. Instead, I sent her one final thing. A single envelope. No return address. Inside, a black and white photo of the two of us on our 5th anniversary. Her smile, my arm around her, our dog in the background. Back when we still looked like people who hadn't broken each other yet. On the back, I wrote in clean block letters. You traded safe for temporary. You mistook quiet for weak. You left a man who would have stayed for one who already looks over his shoulder. And beneath that, enjoy the echo. 2 months after the ink dried on the divorce papers, Monica called me. That was her first mistake. She waited until a Saturday morning, around 10:12 a.m., the exact time she used to put on jazz, brew that expensive French roast she claimed I ground too loudly, and monologue about some article she half-read while I smiled into my coffee and pretended to care about interior design trends. Now, her number flashed on my screen like a punchline in search of a setup. I didn't answer. She called again the next day. I let it ring. By Monday, she left a voicemail. Her voice was casual, polished, like someone trying not to reveal they were calling from a seat of panic. Hey, Adam, listen, I know things didn't end cleanly, and maybe I handled stuff badly, but I think we should talk. Just for a minute. That was her way of saying something went wrong. Something cracked. I didn't need to ask what. I already knew. Caleb. Because the thing about rebound relationships is they're rarely built to survive the weight of real life. Eventually, the aesthetic charm of a man who can do 40 push-ups starts to fade under things like property taxes, morning breath, and the devastating discovery that your new soulmate actually owns 0 books. Monica had chosen excitement. And now, like most people who get drunk on novelty, she'd woken up with a hangover and no Advil. So I did what any composed man with a fresh spine would do. I waited. And then I wrote her back. Not a voicemail. Not a call. Just a single email. Subject line. Closure. Body. Monica. You asked to talk. I'll give you 30 minutes. Wednesday. 7 p.m. public place. Bring nothing. Expect nothing. A. Short. Dry. Surgical. I chose the place carefully, a little wine bar downtown that she used to call too drafty. The kind of place that didn't serve her favorite wine and definitely didn't have Instagrammable lighting. I arrived early, as always. She walked in 10 minutes late, as always. Still trying to make an entrance in a story she no longer starred in. Hi, she said, sitting down across from me like we were meeting to negotiate the return of hostages. Hi, I replied, offering no smile. Just a glass of water. She looked thinner. Or maybe just smaller. Have you been? She asked, like it was a question that mattered. Efficient, I said. That threw her off just enough. She took a breath like she was preparing a script. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For how I handled everything. The timing. The assumptions. Caleb. That name landed on the table like a dropped fork. I said nothing. She filled the silence like she always did. He's not in the picture anymore. It turns out we weren't as compatible as I thought. Shocking, I said flatly. Her smile faltered. I know I was selfish. You weren't selfish, Monica. You were strategic. There's a difference. You didn't just fall out of love. You rearranged the exit route while I was still paying the electric bill. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but frustration. She wasn't used to me like this. She missed the Adam who deflected with humor and folded laundry without complaint. I miss us, she whispered. I didn't blink. You miss me. There was no us at the end. Just you and an audience. She looked away. That told me everything. She wasn't here to make amends. She was here to check the temperature. To see if the man she left would still come running if she snapped in the right tone. I leaned forward slightly. You know what the hardest part was? I said. It wasn't the betrayal. Or the humiliation. It was realizing how long you'd been pretending. The smiles. The I love yous. The bedtime rituals. You'd already packed up emotionally. You just hadn't told me. She started to speak, but I raised a hand, gentle but final. You don't get to miss me now that the man who made you feel dangerous turned out to be the kind of guy who double books massage clients and can't commit to a phone plan. That stung. She winced. Is this revenge? She asked. No, I said. This is restraint. If it were revenge, you'd know. We sat in silence, two people who used to finish each other's sentences now struggling to share the same air. She opened her purse, pulled out something, and slid it across the table. It was the photo of us from our trip to Charleston. The one where I was sunburnt and smiling like a fool, and she was laughing at something I'd whispered right before the shutter clicked. I found this when I was moving stuff, she said. I didn't know what to do with it. I looked down at it for a moment. Then I slid it right back. I do, I said. And with that, I stood up. Wait, she said. Is this really it? I looked her straight in the eye. This was it 3 months ago. You're just now arriving at the part where it sinks in. Then I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't check if she cried. I'd already spent too long trying to make a woman who didn't love me feel whole. Now I was finally doing something I hadn't done in years. I was choosing me. After I walked away from that wine bar, I didn't feel triumphant. There wasn't a trumpet playing or a slow-motion montage of me becoming a better man under golden sunlight. There was just silence. Not the awkward kind. Not the wounded kind. The useful kind. I stopped thinking in past tense. Stopped replaying moments like they were crime scenes. I let the grief shrink, not into nothing, but into proportion. Because honestly, heartbreak doesn't vanish. You just stop feeding it. I bought a smaller apartment downtown. 1 bedroom. Exposed brick. No ghosts. Got a new French press. Real beans. Not the ones she used to call earthy and watered down with oat milk like she was purifying them. My coffee tasted like truth now, bitter, unfiltered, and exactly how I wanted it. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real envelope. My name written in her handwriting, the same loops and curves she used on birthday cards and grocery lists. Inside? No apology. Just a list. Things I wish I had said. I was scared to be alone. I didn't think you'd ever leave. I thought you'd fight for me. Caleb made me feel seen. But I never stopped needing you to be the constant. I stared at the page. Then folded it carefully. I didn't burn it. Didn't tear it up. I added it to a folder marked Closure Theater. She wanted a second ending. A softened version. A way to re-enter the story without asking for forgiveness. That's the thing about people like Monica. They don't regret the betrayal. They regret the silence afterward. You want to know what real revenge looks like? Not keying a car. Not making her a meme. It's becoming unrecognizable to the person who thought they had you figured out. Monica reached out again, this time through mutual friends. Claire. Her sister. Apparently, Monica was worried about me. I called Claire back just once. You can tell her I'm alive, employed, peaceful, and uninterested in giving her the closure she thinks she's earned. Claire hesitated, then said, she didn't think you'd actually walk away. She didn't think I could. I corrected. That's the difference. Word got back to Monica. How do I know? Because a week later, she blocked me on everything. That's how you know you've won. Not when they cry. Not when they chase you. When your silence makes them so uncomfortable, they try to erase you before you've even spoken. Here's the part people always want to know. Did I ever get back at her? Did I burn her world down? No. I just unplugged the power source. Remember that cabin in Traverse City? The one I made sure was in her name? Well, turns out she never updated the rental insurance. Never filed her business taxes correctly. I forwarded everything to the appropriate agencies with a polite little cover letter that included the ledger from our old joint account. Not because I wanted her ruined. Just seen. For who she really was. Someone who wore grace like perfume. And sprayed a little more whenever the sin of guilt got too strong. She lost the cabin. Caleb? Long gone. New guy? Probably being told the same stories I once believed. But me? I started teaching a new literature elective. One focused on unreliable narrators. Titled it Fractures and Fictions. When I introduced the course, I said, sometimes, the villain isn't who you think. Sometimes, the villain has a wedding ring. And sometimes, the strongest thing you'll ever do is leave the room before the fire spreads. A few students nodded. One kid whispered, whoa. And I smiled. Because that, right there, is what victory sounds like. Not clapping. Not fireworks. Just clarity.